doing? Hey, I'm Tom McKay, your exciting and an amazing host here on 3D Politics, your perspicuous host here with all three Davids, the most amazing Davids in the state of Oklahoma. David Van, David Oldham, and David D'Ambroso. We're all getting ready to talk a little bit of national, state, and local news, but first, so that you know who you're talking to, David Van right here, SoonerPolitics.org, David Oldham right there, right in the middle. He is with constitutionalgrounds.org,
.org or .com.
constitutionalgrounds.com, and Dave D'Ambroso. I'm all shook up because the star got back. Catch him, Dave D'Ambroso, on Facebook, and me, Tom E. McKay, at Twitter.
He's the star of social media, right?
That's the one, the star of social media. I'm all flustered up.
I'm David. No, that doesn't work.
You know,
we're all stars of David.
I just have to say, the fake news is running amok with all this weather because they're starting to talk about the wind chill index.
Mm-hmm.
And, I wish they would just tell us what the temperature is and let me tell you what it feels like to me.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're starting to say the wind chill index will dip into the... Well, that doesn't mean anything. That's literally fake news.
Single digits and the teens.
The way that the weather feels is totally subjective.
I have to say, though, I got a little bit stumped on that because I agree with you with a caveat. I had a customer that they had a garden spigot spout outside their house on the north side, and is inside there's a bedroom. They had the door closed up. With the cold wind blowing from the north, it actually penetrates that colder air further into the building on that side that the wind's hitting, and yeah, they had a pipe burst and several $1,000s insurance.
I mean, if wind chill factor is an issue, then we've got to factor that into the climate change. Because we're not going to be able to just call the temperature one normal temperature.
Is it
and
wind
then,
part of climate?
It's climate. I'm just saying there are multiple climates on the earth, so that's just one of them. You know, fake news is a deal. Remember when they told us that Rock Hudson was having sex with Doris Day? That was fake news. Just trying to keep up with the social media star.
But I can tell you, it was not fake news. The numbers of accidents I saw on the turnpike today. Just between Tulsa and Muskogee, no fewer than a dozen separate accidents and cars in the ditch, in the center median, in the K-rail.
Mutilated deer, too.
Oh, yes. Oh, several.
Hit the deer, Carl.
I'm talking Mango got run over several times.
Yeah.
This is the time to get roadkill, man. It freezes and
Yeah, you don't want those.
And
those are pretty bad.
Before we move on into tonight's show, we got a lot of stories, but tonight's show is brought to you by G.T. Bynum's Vote No on Improve Our Taxes. Tomorrow's the big vote for Improve Our Taxes, and GT's out there pushing. He's got a beautiful commercial, and I got a nice little poster that told me to vote, and he's going to improve our taxes around here. The thing that I wanted to talk about real quick is that they're not talking about how saving the temporary penny has worked on all the roads so much as they keep saying if we don't maintain the roads, they'll all they'll deteriorate. The thing is, they said that 3 years ago on the Improve Our Tulsa, and G.T. Bynum has been in Tulsa politics for 10 years or 15 years now. Long time in those streets. He's collected the most money for fixing streets, but he doesn't hold the award for most streets fixed. So, just saying, don't forget to vote no on Improve Our Taxes, and we'll get this thing started off.
I say, if you take the 2/3 that they're planning to raise by this, and you divide it by our basically 300 and some thousand Tulsans, it comes out to $2,000 per person. That your taxes will go up if you vote for it. $2,000 per person, every member of your family.
Yeah, man, woman, and child.
But they promised to do a really good job this time, guys. You got to take that into consideration.
If you call making it permanent instead of temporary. But they also, that's just after 3 years ago, adding $200 per household for just one of the propositions of Vision 20.
That's right. I should have clarified. A really good job at taxing you, not constructing the road.
Improve our taxes is what it is.
And since I'm of this mindset to do this, let's remind everybody listening to us that these taxes are a violation of your property rights. There is nothing constitutional about local taxation for fixing all these things.
For parks.
Let's talk about that. For all of these voluntary things, they need to be back into the voluntary area. They cannot be coercing them from us because, and especially on the things that everybody doesn't automatically use. Roads would be an arguable exception, but all of the other stuff is not lawful, and just because a majority votes for it, all we are realizing is that we have tyranny of the majority on the rest.
Right. That's the
So let's remember what we have. We have a bigger hill to climb. It's not going to be solved tomorrow.
But what about price gouging? I mean, I can't even sell a bottle of water during a disaster when a bottle of water is clearly worth more during a disaster. But they're stacking up these road projects that we haven't even begun to start to pay on the Vision Prop 1 tax. It's a permanent tax. It doesn't even start until July of 2021. We just passed a new tax 3 years ago that hasn't even started yet, and GT wants more. That's like price gouging on streets, if you ask me.
Well, the thing is that if he doesn't get it, what's going to happen is the tax is going to sunset. It's going to drop, and getting that money back is harder than keeping it and then slipping in the permanency of it.
Yeah,
because that's what he's trying to do.
Once people actually tangibly feel a freedom they didn't have, they will fight for it much harder than if they never had.
3 years ago they just proved you wrong. They made they forged right through the Brown ordinance and made the tax permanent. That temporary penny is no longer temporary.
I understand that. But
so they just did what you said they won't do. They will make the temporary penny permanent.
Tom, the comprehension of it was lost on the people. They look at that sales tax rate and that's all they look at. How many cents on the dollar?
Right. But they changed it from temporary to permanent.
Yep.
So there won't be any sunsetting on Prop 1 from Vision 2025.
Right.
It'll just be permanent.
Right.
Correct. And we don't even start the payment for that until 2021, which means the sales tax around Tulsa is going to skyrocket the summer of 2021.
What's that going to do to food deserts, I wonder?
The food desert.
Okay.
All right, let's move into the show now that I'm done with it. We've got off to that rocky start, ladies and gentlemen. If you've just joined it, right here, Tom, David, and let's talk about veterans. You got a happy veteran story for me? Anybody?
We still have a country.
We still have a country.
I wanted to say the callback, it's what happens when the rulers are making the rules. In our country, the people making the rules are supposed to be public servants from among us, representatives.
Right.
But they feel the need to rule, and they have inched their ways into rulership positions, and that money is power and influence. Yes. That's why they never want to give up a penny, ever, and they won't unless you force them.
With the exception of Grenada back in, 84, other than that, every theater of war that we've been in has been to protect Muslims. Not that it matters, but...
Since when?
Since 84.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and actually, Panama was in 90, 94.
Yeah, I don't know. What about Yugoslavia?
That was Muslims.
Oh, yes,
yeah,
like Albanians and Serbians.
But back to what you were saying, talk to these elected officials. And what we fought in 1776 was divine right of kings. The king could usurp his authority. The kings of Great Britain had given up certain authorities via the Magna Carta and other documents that they had signed through the years. And the divine right of kings said, "Nope, screw it. We're gonna do what we want because I'm king. God gave me that position. I'm numero uno." Well, that is what we fought. Read the Declaration of Independence. The usurpation of his rightful place, his rightful authority, was part of the condemnation of the king. Yeah. Well, we now have elected officials doing the same thing. Instead of divine right of kings, it's now divine right of election, where
Well,
they
yeah.
literally think that because they've been elected, they can do whatever they want.
You don't even have to be elected. You got to be married to an elected one, and then you feel like you're ready to fill the spot when he's gone.
Or
Well, that
unelected bureaucrats. And
And-
it's not that they.
Exactly.
Do we have any more Bush children that are going to run, and or maybe?
I don't think they want to.
Before that, it was the Kennedys.
I think Jeb was embarrassed at
Yeah.
politics, which was great.
Clinton said Bush said no new taxes. Clinton said no new bushes.
And Jeb said, "Clap, please."
And we know that nobody kept their promise on either one of those.
Yeah.
So
Well, I know that in my family there were veterans. My dad's older brother served in the Navy, and my mother's side, when that would be World War II, and on my mother's side there were 3 brothers that died all in the same accident. This was before they passed the law. That
Sullivan
famous law.
Act, right?
Yeah, yes.
Mhm.
And so I know that there's been veterans that served in my family.
Sure. My great uncle was one of the first Americans killed in the First World War. He was a volunteer train engineer hauling ammunition in France to Belgium to the front. And
Oh, wow.
the train railroad was mined, and all they got was little scraps of the scalp of his head, and they sent part of it back to us.
That's just
Yeah.
sensationalism.
Yeah,
they
they-
did with that
but-
graphic description.
Well, you asked if there's any good heartwarming
Well,
stories
yeah,
about
yeah.
veterans.
Start with something
No,
like that.
and then I think of my father example. He served 2 years, but then he had PTSD and was on tranquilizers for most of the rest of his life. It's a tough thing. In fact, on Senator Politics, I wrote a story, we shared it to 3D Politics, about the terrible, increasingly difficult problem of PTSD, veteran suicide. It is about 5 times the rate it was at World War II.
It's 22 a day, isn't it?
And it's dropped down to about 17, but in the last 10 years, 60,000 veterans have died.
I guess
That
I'd be
means-
less likely to kill myself if
Yeah,
Trump was my
no.
boss versus Obama.
Okay, here's the point. Less than 6,000 died combined between Afghanistan and Iraq. Less than 6,000. We lost 10 times that amount in the following 10 years to veteran suicide after their tour of duty. It's a very difficult thing, and people are trying to figure out what is it. In my article, I talk about a couple of theories. You remember the Jason Bourne thriller science fiction series, the ultra-trained military killing
Manchurian
machine.
candidate.
Yeah, the killing machine. And the problem was they could not untrain him. They could not revert him back to being a normal human being.
Being a florist.
And we have, I would say this, we have the best trained military soldiers maybe in world history. Maybe, I don't know. But what do you do with them? And then when you send them on 3, 4 tours of duty, unlike our grandparents who were in World War II for max, 3.5 years. These are the kinds of things that have an accumulative effect.
We talk about the most vulnerable among us and how we treat them defines the nation and such.
Mhm.
We never think about warriors as being the most vulnerable, but if you take a person and blindfold them and have total control of their movements, they are vulnerable no matter how strong they are. Now, I know of a story where a gentleman was, I think, thrown in the brig for 14 days, I forget exactly, for a sunburn. Now, how do you get in trouble for a sunburn when you're in the Army?
It's government property.
It's government property, that's correct. Defacing government property.
Yeah.
So now, the fact is, these veterans are treated like property.
Yes.
They have limited
Well,
rights. They don't even
now,
have their constitutional rights in the
Furthermore,
service.
when they go to get their medication, they are told, take this, and take that. Now, I don't know if you've ever read the psychotropic warnings on the psychotropic drugs, but I read about 3 paragraphs, and I wouldn't take a placebo if they
A
told
lot
me
of
that.
these drugs
Right.
are experimental too. They don't know what they're being shot up with. We
Well,
don't know.
You are absolutely correct. And the thing is that the answers to these things could be myriad. we have environmental toxins that are injected, that they're exposed to. We've known for several years.
Gulf War syndrome.
Gulf War syndrome.
Agent Orange, yeah.
Friend right here in Tulsa did studies on it, found out it looks just like SIDS. They're coming back. He was doing ocular studies and seeing it looks just like SIDS, which indicates it may be vaccine damage because it's the exact same thing that the kids are getting who are experiencing vaccine injury. But you find out the people in the Navy and so forth. Turn on the TV and look at watch the commercials for people who've been in the Navy exposed to asbestos. Okay, the things that you are exposed to in the military are often unconscionable, and the very nature that the people who are to protect our liberty are supposedly slaves and literally give up all of their rights to serve us.
What is the argument behind
absolutely
that?
ridiculous.
Because I know that you can't even engage in free speech activities, and you're not necessarily. I understand maybe while you're in the capacity of your job in the military, but even when they are off or on leave, they can't engage in free speech, political speech.
Right.
So how is that justified? How is that constitutional?
Keep in mind, we no longer have the kind of conscription that we had even when I was a kid.
It is volunteer, so you're saying they signed a contract?
And they're signing a contract, right. The difficulty, unlike my father's generation, which was everybody was drafted. I mean, very few people signed up.
Right.
Korean War or Vietnam War. My God,
Well, there were plenty that did sign up, but
So
the vast
right.
majority
did not. And they were there just the minimum. They did one tour, they got out. Now people are signing up, looking at it as a career, and after 3 or 4 tours over a 5-10 year period, there's not much left of them. And this is
America has traditionally hired and paid soldiers.
Oh, yes.
And that's not the problem. The problem here is, and this is something that we as a nation need to look at and really become aware of. The way that we allow our military, our executive branch of government, and Congress, because Congress has done nothing about it.
Thank you.
The way that they allow military members to be treated is absolutely unconscionable. It's criminal. Because what they do is they turn these people, and while you have to obey law orders and you have to be able to jump when told to jump, and etc., and give your life for the cause, all of that is necessary. But to do that to the exclusion of an acknowledgement of individual rights is absolutely unconscionable. Even in Israel, they have a doctrine where you can turn down an order that violates your conscience.
Even in Israel.
Okay, even in Israel. Well, no, I mean it's.
And you know what that's like.
Well, no, the idea is that they have a strong military, and they allow this because it's important.
Yeah, their military is their entire country between the ages of 18 and 20.
Exactly.
Male and female.
Yeah.
Male and female, yes. But the point is that we need to re-examine this, and this is going to take good people who are listening to the show, because it's not going to be just us.
Well, the greatest crime that we subject our military to is socialist healthcare. The VA, which Trump has done a great job.
Let's
of
focus
reforming.
this back on the problem of suicide. I want to tune us back in real quick. This episode of 3D Politics is like the movie Saving Private Ryan. The first 20 minutes is just like everyone. But anyway, Tom McKay here with 3D Politics, David Van, David Oldham, David D'Ambroso, and my point specifically is these warriors, they sign up to be specifically moldable. I'm going to do what you tell me to do. I'm going to try my best to be what you need me to be. And then they say, okay, now take these psychotropic drugs, and every third paragraph says, oh, and it might make you think about suicide. Oh, I don't know how we can sue an opioid company when they knew full well those things were addictive, when we are literally passing out pills that says in the owner's manual, you are going to kill yourself.
Well,
I mean, how about if that gets a problem?
You know, when you're dealing with the classic PTSD, anxiety, the flashbacks, the panic attacks, typically what the VA is leaning on is some very old technology, old drugs, benzodiazepine tranquilizers. My dad was on them after the Korean War. Most of my childhood, I had a zombie dad.
They're great for shooting.
Okay, right, and I would highly recommend everybody. We'll put it on the Facebook for 3D Politics Live tonight, and on the Blogspot post. Pat Campbell this morning had a couple of veterans, Sharon Jackson and Kevin. Oh, I'll get the name later. Sorry, Kevin. He deals with therapy dogs for veterans with PTSD, suicidal veterans, and stuff. But those two soldiers have a very good insight into what's causing the problem, the kind of scenario you're trying to get back out of that war zone, especially when it's your second, third tour.
Trump is exactly right. We're exhausting the country, the will of the country, and even just the will to live of many of our fighting men and women because we're in these endless wars.
Yes.
Other wars, other conflicts that Trump is absolutely right, and people have said it before. In 2004, Trump said he would fire President Bush because of the Iraq War. Well, it's 20 years, and people are saying now I have liberals all the time, leftists. They're not really liberals.
KFAQ had Kevin Doncaster.
Yes.
Kevin Doncaster and Sharon Jackson.
It was fantastic. We'll post that up so you can all listen to it. It's very good. I agree with them. One, I'll admit, I was dead wrong on the Iraqi war.
Me too.
Never done. And
I supported. My excuse was I was 14.
And then number two,
that'll work.
When you're dealing with the Taliban or someone like that, you knock the crap out of them and say, "No, you
get the hell out.
You clean up the mess, folks.
Yeah, peel out."
Yeah. We're no longer nation building.
Our military, exactly. That's what you say. Our military is great at blowing them the hell up. We're not so great at rebuilding countries. Why? Because no one is. We are the greatest nation, perhaps, in the history of the world, but no one has been shown to rebuild a country.
Well, we also screw it up because we are supposed to be the nation that's talking about liberty, and what are we trying to take over there? I mean, GW said we were going to take democracy. In other words, we're going to take tyranny of the majority. And
you didn't like your old kind of tyranny? Here's a new kind of tyranny.
Exactly, and that's exactly what we saw in Iraq. As soon as the Shia got power, what they do? They took it to the Sunnis.
Yeah.
And then when the Sunnis got some power through ISIS, what did they do?
Democracy in and of itself, I think you mentioned before, Oldham, it is tyrannical. What we have is a constitutional republic, and that is the only way to protect individual rights.
With the democracy just being within the areas that we can have a discussion.
Yes, we have democratic functions within our
government. One of the biggest boogeymen that we've been going after is that we're not going to have Sharia law here. No way. And you know what? For the folks in Afghanistan, us pushing our Western government on them is no less egregious.
Yeah.
It's forcing one culture upon another people.
It's all about the undesired use of force.
Yeah. Well, they love unfettered barbarism, and so it's just incompatible with what we have. So
I've
have what they want.
The disco, but never. So let's move on to this story about Nikki Haley, United Nations.
This is great.
According to the Washington Post, it looks like President Trump's former senior advisors tried to get Nikki Haley to undermine Trump to, quote-unquote, save the country. Kelly and Tillerson confided in me, she says, that when they resisted the president, they weren't being insubordinate, they were trying to save the country.
Okay, now you said Rex Tillerson, Secretary of State, and
John Kelly.
John Kelly was
Chief
of Staff. Okay, I didn't want to gloss past that.
Former General Kelly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which, if he escaped the Obama purge, probably bad news. That was the first tip-off.
Yes. And so Tillerson didn't last a year, right? We got rid of him, but that last 6 months or so was very difficult, and eventually, I think Trump tweeted the firing.
Yeah,
right.
Tillerson allegedly called Trump an idiot. Who knows if it's true or not.
And there was just an arrogance in not following, protocols. Now that happened there, but Kelly was somebody. When you're chief of staff, I mean, the president sees the chief of staff more than he sees his own wife.
Right.
It's that close, and
there's no one closer closer to the president than the chief of staff.
Right, and what made it very difficult for Nikki Haley, our UN secretary,
Well, maybe a Republican.
our UN
president.
ambassador.
The interns are pretty close.
Yeah,
to them.
well, but the UN ambassador, how did she get word to Trump that his closest, including the gatekeeper, John Kelly,
Right.
is actually planning a coup?
And I think that's the key
Right.
that you're posing here, the gatekeeper. So how do you get this message through the gatekeeper to the president? So
Who knows how she did, but now keep in mind,
Well, did she?
yeah, we don't even know what she did.
in October of last year, just about a year ago, she announced her resignation. And within a month after that, Kelly was gone. So she had her audience with Trump when she announced that.
Kind of a debriefing, exit
in
interview
October,
sort of thing.
yeah.
Right.
But by the way, you have traitors in your administration. Is like, do you have names?
Yeah. My guess is the only other way is you go through Trump's kids. Either his daughter or Jared or
Well, you
someone.
wonder how much, I mean, as UN ambassador, you wonder how much access she would have just to be able to call him up.
Well, first of all, she answers to Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State.
Oh,
Directly, yes.
Well, I understand this is a pretty big stage we're on, and we know that there's a trail of bodies behind Hillary.
Yes.
So, I mean, it should be pretty careful when you're getting ready to say, I think you guys are pulling a coup. I mean, you can't just say, hey, right here she's saying that they said, that is, Kelly and Tillerson said, it was their decisions, not the president's, that were in the best interest of America.
Yeah.
Funny how we didn't elect them, and yet they're taking over. The president didn't know, quoting more from Nikki Haley, the president didn't know what he was doing, she said, was their statement.
I think I ran the numbers, and I might run the proofs of it, but working for Hillary Clinton statistically is the world's deadliest vocation. No, it really is. Statistically, it is the deadliest vocation. There is no industry ever in the history of the world that I'm aware of that proportion of people that have worked for someone in any kind of industry anywhere ever have died, have committed suicide.
This is like
Or
the
died by-
suicided.
Or have died by other means. I mean, it is literally the most dangerous vocation.
This is like the cattle futures futures probabilities. It's like a million to. Or
Right,
she's a great investor.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Right, now Mulvaney is currently the chief of staff. And for a while, he was acting chief of staff. We didn't really have one. But again, Kelly was the second one, and he was the one that was seen as going to bring order after Reince Priebus.
I never liked
and
that guy.
Crazy show.
Either of them.
But there was Priebus, and then you had, what's his name with Breitbart? Bannon.
The
Steve
lieutenant.
Bannon.
Yeah, maybe.
No, Steve Bannon. You know, and so here we're basically going through a chief of staff about one per year. Now, it's a
actually
tough
pretty
job.
good.
It's a tough job.
Yeah.
Nobody lasts 4 years.
Talk
in
about
that.
PTSD.
Yeah, it's a difficult. You have no life.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to be there before the president wakes up in the morning, and you don't leave until after he goes.
Oh,
to
I know,
bed.
I've seen the
He
West
wakes
Wing.
up at like 4.
Yeah.
He goes to bed at
So-
like
He goes to bed at 2 or 1
So-
when he's done tweeting. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just that position. You take Sarah Huckabee Sanders. You know, she had about a year and a half, and she had to deal with those idiots from CNN. You know,
She had a
was
record as
ready,
press
you know.
secretary, near record
Yeah.
run. They
Yeah.
don't last a year and a half.
No, they don't. They
Yeah.
don't. Some have died in office. We lost.
Scaramucci was there for like 11 days or something. The mooch.
Well, you know, and Tony Snow died of cancer while that was going on. Dana Perino took his place. You know, and then you had Reagan's press secretary was shot.
Yeah.
Jim Brady.
Met
Did he
him.
live? Was he
yeah.
shot?
Yeah, I met him in the
Yeah,
hospital.
but very
Quickly when
damaged.
Reagan was shot?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same.
So you know, it's got its risk and it's got its. I mean, you wear out. So
You know, to close out this story on Nikki Haley, her memoir book is entitled, where to go, With All Due Respect. And she does close out the piece, but she told the newspaper she has no personal quarrel with Kelly, a retired 4-star Marine general, and called him a patriot. Well, I would too.
I don't know. These establishment people are absolute trash, and I think one of the greatest things of the Trump era is exposing this swamp, and in the swamp really profoundly, and I can't say it enough. It is within the Republican Party. The Democrats have no power
yeah,
unless these people, which exist even in our state party, lay down and hand it to them. We have too many of them.
I want to say Nikki Haley, though, is a class act. She held her own at the UN. She's done some great things in just the way in which she's handled this. She didn't go trashing people. She just said it matter-of-factly.
And a brown lady. Impressive that this racist president appointed a brown lady. And you know what? The media, they're so backwards. They kept talking about how it was a travesty that Trump fired, and I'm forgetting what CIA director it was. Was it Brennan? I'm not sure. They're just talking about that. I don't think it was actually Brennan, but he replaced that person with the first female CIA director, and that really got.
Oh no, that was Pompeo, and he moved over to Secretary of State. Didn't fire him.
Okay, didn't fire him.
Pompeo was.
Who replaced him in the CIA? What's the lady's name?
I forget her name.
The media is committed to never speaking of her, which is
we
why I don't even know her name.
idea,
She's the first in history.
And I think she's probably fine with it. When you run a spy agency, you really don't want a lot of attention.
Famous secret agent.
Right.
Well, I think M has been a longer
Yeah, Judi Dench.
running a spy agency longer than
That's true.
We're going to move over to another social justice story, but I want to say it before we move off the national political scene. Have you noticed how in the media Biden has changed? They've changed the label for Biden. It used to be it was Trump's political rival, but now he's moved to potential political opponent. I heard that today. So he used to be looking for dirt on his political rival, but now he's potentially
Interesting.
potentially political opponent, not a rival anymore.
Yeah, and let's just say.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So they really had to back it up.
Biden is on his way out. That's been one of my points about the impeachment, is that Biden is not his rival or opponent even. Nobody is yet. He's not running against
Well, the
anybody.
media, they have a problem with their frames because they're so greedy, lack self-awareness, they're so unfair that they have to have the artificial high ground in every area. So the narrative was, as you're all aware, probably, is that Trump is digging up dirt on his political rival. As if Biden is the only guy he's cornered. He's going to be the... I mean, there's 16 other people he's running against,
Well,
right?
clearly not
There's
a rival
there's
because there's
guarantee.
others.
Well, he's
Yes.
a rival in the sense that he has different beliefs, but that's not the way they're using the term.
Yeah.
So they want to use it again, like you always point out. They want to have it both ways. They want to call him he's a rival because he's in the Democratic Party, but they want to also have it that he's the opponent in the
Well,
race for president.
it should be that Trump takes on the Democratic Party.
Yeah. By the way,
Right.
next week we're going to have a new story to talk about, and that's going to be the so-called impeachment hearings that aren't really impeachment hearings. They're kangaroo court, if you will. But so next week that's going to be a new subject for us to bring up. I'm sure there'll be plenty to say by then.
In the excitement, I'm Tom McKay, your host, 3D Politics. I got David Van, David Oldham, David D'Ambrose. I'm just not going to get through this one today. Just not going to make it today. The School for Social Justice. Everyday Feminism's School for Social Justice.
Oh my gosh.
This is some good stuff. I just scanned this that you sent this link to. I noticed right off the bat they pitch astrology to the ladies. They pitch tarot reading to touch
You're
your
taking my seat.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is all the good stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was wondering what the curriculum was.
I thought there was. It's so deep. It's way deeper than that.
It's incredible, yeah. Facebook's trying to troll me, which, hats off to Facebook. They're advertising this SJW University in my feed, and I happen to see it. And they've got such hard-hitting classes as astrology is healing work, how to use your natal chart for self-care and self-love.
Yeah, your natal chart.
Wow.
I
That's
thought it was my navel chart.
What is self-love?
I'm
Oh.
not going to take the course.
You Nordic freak.
Sex for one?
Well, the next one is reclaiming your pleasure. How to live a sexually liberated life in a sex-negative world. These are courses you can take at SJW
That's
University.
some good stuff.
Hold on, transformative justice in the hashtag #MeToo era. Surviving capitalism. Wow, that's a class. I mean, maybe you need to take it in Venezuela. I don't know. Maybe
Hashtag
or
own
North
your
Korea.
own body. That would be.
How to get control of your finances and heal your relationship to money. How to effectively navigate.
Money? Okay, that's interesting.
How to effectively navigate your workplace as a feminist. even when they're not.
Working or feminist?
Ethical non-monogamy 101, exploring love, abundance, and accountability.
Now, hold
Wait a
right
minute, I
there.
thought we were
That's
just
good.
in a post-sexual world.
No, this is a good one. This reminds me of teenage paranormal romance.
You can't make
at the
this
bookstore.
This is like this is like a Babylon Bee story, except it's for real. And this is why I've got to get Snopes some credit. They have to actually fact check Babylon Bee now because it sounds like the real news, like what the left is actually pushing.
I can't wait to sell this one to the wall.
Okay, I'm just gonna ask the people watching. Have you noticed that when you go on Facebook and go to a Babylon Bee story, there will be a tag for a Snopes article fact-checking satire?
It's the Onion. It says at the top of it, it's a satire website, but it's just such a post-truth world that I don't know. I guess they might have to. I got to give Snopes some
sadly,
credit.
the Babylon Bee is just repeating almost what they hear
It's
on
like
the
right
nightly
from the
news.
headlines. Yeah.
I mean, some of the funniest stuff that Saturday Night Live has done of late has just been pretty much just replaying what went down in the news that day,
Real stuff.
and it was hilarious. That's the thing is it's almost more real than the stuff is that they're doing every day because they're just making stuff up.
It certainly is real. Go ahead.
So I'm wondering, can you get a Pell Grant to pay for this?
I mean, coming soon, you can get a Pell Grant to only pay for this kind of education. I mean, normally this is kind of like subversively put into the curriculum, but this is just right out in front, like feminist parenting in the time of Trump, gender reveals, and white supremacy. That's like a big non sequitur. Like,
Gender
what
reveal
does that
to white
even
supremacy.
mean?
Shouldn't it be a supremacy reveal? You are a black supremacist.
Practical decolorization, part 2. How to take your liberation movements to the next
Okay, hold
level.
on. Is that decolonization or decolonization?
Oh, yeah, it's decolonization.
Are we clearing our bowels or getting rid of Kaepernick?
It's a big colon flush. That's what you're going to get in the class, I think.
So that's a
Colon
liberation movement, not a libation?
Not a libation. It could be. It could be. I think it's a purging
Let's
smoothie.
chug on a minute. Hold on. Did you say ethical non-monogamy 101?
I don't even know what I said. These words barely have. They're really using the words like a true leftist. They have like no meaning anymore.
Ethical,
It's like
I
words.
can't get past
Ethical
ethical
non-monogamy.
non-monogamy.
It's like word
I'm
salad.
taking notes on this one. Because it's ethical non-monogamy 101, which indicates there are other courses.
Well, you really? Yeah, that's
There might be a
We
two-
could be like
200,
3,400
high level goes into that XMIV cult, so that's like class 5.
I think they're bringing in Bill Clinton as
Class
a
6. That's class 6. In the 7 level classes, like Epstein Pedophilia Island, like how to suicide your friends ethically.
Oh, okay, so sorry, I just can't get off this page. So here's one. Beyond diversity, how to build a truly anti-racist organization, even if they're not one.
That's an important one, but I think this is probably needs to be a precursor class because you have to unlock your inner magic. This is the name of one class. Probably needs to be a precursor class, a prerequisite to all of them.
Yeah.
How to use tarot for clarity in everyday life. I think you've got to get a real clear understanding of tarot before you can really move into any of this.
Okay,
and your
now-
natal chart.
Now, for those who don't understand, that's the tarot card fortune telling type of stuff.
This is like leftist
What other kind
science.
of tarot were you talking about?
Well, I just
David.
want, there are children watching.
It's
Oh,
just
there are not children watching.
It's just as much science as climate change, right? Global warming, global cooling. Now it's climate change. So
I
yeah.
think it was Stephen Wright who said he was playing poker with tarot cards. He got a full house and 4 people died.
Oh God. I guess we can only read just a couple more of these because it goes
Oh,
on.
we can read a lot more.
on.
Does it really?
But yeah, building a trans/non-binary inclusive workplace, a training for employers and employees.
Yeah.
These are courses.
Now, is that a prerequisite to the gender reveal or not?
I don't.
Because
The
I don't.
supremacist
If we're non-binary, then
Help us
Like,
out.
what
Is
are
there a campus where these are being taught, or is it online? Or
Campus of the mind, David. I'm not that kind of feminist moving beyond white feminism. I'm
I'm wondering if
Is there any other kind?
That's what I'm saying.
I'm just wondering if this is like just off of Berkeley or some other university, or is this Wellesley College? I don't know.
I think it's all of them. This one's just consolidating. I think.
Here's the ultimate cycle: from narcissist to burnout to radical self-care, to narcissist to burnout to the body love course. Ooh, that one sounds good. Everyday love.
All right.
That is some good stuff, David. I had a ton of. You could see I could barely contain myself once we got to the story.
Well, this was on Reddit. Apparently, there were some
Yeah.
neo-Nazis, and there was something like African roots ads they were putting into their newsfeed to troll them. Man, it's pretty funny. Like they're posting pictures. It's like, are you guys getting this too? I think Facebook's having a little bit of fun.
Well, what I'd like to know is this some curriculum that's being offered for sale textbook to
David.
several universities?
David wants
I'd like to know.
get serious.
Or is this just from the Onion? I don't know. I mean,
this is legitimate. I mean, it's just as a joke, as much clown world as anything the left pushes. I mean, it's all out in the open now, and it's just so far accelerated.
What I'd like to know is this concentrated at one locale, one university?
These
or
are on-demand classes.
Okay, so these are
this is
online.
a separate institute.
This is
it's actually SGW online. You know, it's probably where that Ron White guy got his online degree.
Yes,
It's connected to Everyday Feminism magazine.
Sharp,
which,
Sharp.
if you're a woman, how many days are you not?
Ron White's funny.
Ron Sharp. I think he's trying to move beyond white feminism. That's what confused me. Because Ron Sharp moved beyond white feminism.
Have we had a supremacist reveal yet for him?
We haven't. Yeah, we had to go to the Black Roots website.
So everyday feminism is what's and I thought the San Francisco 49ers did a great job of decolonizing.
Let me just read this. This is just in from Rick Hubbard. This is just in from Rick Hubbard. He said, I forgot to tell you, remember Rick Hubbard? He's the guy that got
Yes. Is he live with us?
totally
right now?
reduced, yes, from his constitutional rights. The judge took all of his guns and ammo. He has not been charged with a crime yet. He said, just now, he just sent me, I forgot to tell you, I went to the OSBI, he asked for the return of my handgun license on the first day. They were so angry I would question them that they suspended it on the spot. Told me I could appeal to have it reinstated when this is over.
Appeal.
Also, the DA apparently has 3 years to charge me now. He hasn't been charged with a crime, but his private property, right to defend himself, is being taken.
Criminal.
No idea how, but this is Rick Hubbard speaking. No idea how, but my attorney said the OSBI had zero authority to suspend my gun license, no charges, no conviction, licenses and guns and rights gone. Let that sink in.
Wow. Now we're going to come
sad.
around. Are we talking about him later, or is that somebody else?
So 3 years is now considered a speedy trial.
Yeah.
Let that sink in because that's directly in the Bill of Rights.
When we reported on this a couple weeks ago, and I think Rick agreed, they had up to, because he posted bond, they had up to 18 months to dispense.
And if he hadn't posted bond, it's a year.
Yeah. So how they get 3 years out of this?
They just kind of make it up as they go.
Yeah, so Rick, we really want to stay in touch with you on this. Get with D'Ambroso or any of us. We really need to stay on this and share your plight.
You need to keep saying these judges' names and make them famous.
Yeah.
Because they said the Constitution doesn't apply in their courtrooms. What they say goes. Well, maybe you're going to be the next one to go.
Well, before we spend money on Medicare for all, then let's just spend money on speeding up trials first.
There you go. There you go.
This one more time. Tom McKay with 3D Politics, David Vann, David Oldham, David D'Ambroso. Wow, that was exciting. Let's talk about the nation's report card, David. How does this work? Where did you find this information?
Well, this was a national study, and it appeared to be a pretty good audit. It wasn't just some feel-good thing, you know, that yay, New England, we have the best schools, or yay, Minnesota, we have the best school. But Oklahoma actually dropped 4 points and went from right in the middle amongst 50 states down to number 40 just in 1 year.
I'd like to see that criterion they're judging us on.
And but anyway,
social media score, maybe.
Yeah. And this is a difficult thing because again, a year and a half ago, we dumped a lot more money in. And I'm telling you, if you really want to see reform, you won't get it until they're so struggling they have to reform. When you dump money into problems, you can hide real problems.
Well, remember, I'm saying public schooling is unconstitutional. It's another violation of your property rights because it's just charity. So what we have to do is
Really
make
bad charity.
It's
too.
Well, it's
hella
the
emotionary,
worst.
but
The
we're
thing
not gonna
is-
get into
it's the worst charity because you're forced to give it,
Mhm.
Well,
and
it's not charity,
and
then.
it's a poor quality.
Well,
people explain this.
We're gonna have to settle this.
and it's
Quit
not
calling it charity.
revolutionary.
Well, then it's not charity. Call it something else.
Well, the thing is, it's a
Unfortunate.
sort of because
No, it's
it's because the people who are taking it are taking charity.
Yeah.
They are accepting money for something that they do not deserve. They've not earned it. Having a child does not earn you the money of others. It is only by the good graces of others or the theft and good
What's
graces of
mind-boggling is how unnecessary it is. The United States is the most giving country. After our populace is taxed 40, 50, 60%, we still give more per capita than any other nation in the history of the world. And imagine if we weren't taxed at such an oppressive level, how much more we would give, how much more we could give, and how much more effective that charity is. You know, World Government Organizations have been trying to do and spending far more money than the Gates Foundation has in eliminating diseases like malaria, all right, around the world. Polio and malaria. Well, the Gates Foundation has done far more, far less money. Why? It's Bill's personal flipping money.
Yes.
We have studied, it's common sense, but it's
Yeah,
also
well-
scientific fact that you spend the money more efficiently when it's your money. When
Right.
you're giving the charity, you're going to ensure the education is of high quality. And we would absolutely have that in this country
Well,
without public
And
education.
here's a good example for my vaccine choice friends. Right now with public schooling, you don't have much of a choice. I mean, you're going to pay for the caring van to come around and inject kids. Oftentimes, because we have evidence of oftentimes this happens without parental permission. Okay? Injecting kids with one vaccine or another.
That's one of the
And your
biggest
money
problems.
goes to help pay for this, both through the health department and the school
The
district.
most insidious thing about public education, I think, in many public programs, is how it erodes, just dramatically erodes parental rights, individual rights, and it just pervades. And even in subtle ways, just like the homework thing. Well, you got the kids for 8 hours a day. Why in the world do they need to do homework for another 3 and 4 hours? They're just robbing the family of its time, and they don't care. And they want to control the bodies of children as well. Well, you've got to have this, you've got to have that, you've got to have... I mean, what it really is just a program to control the family and control the individual, and it is completely ass backwards to the construction of the country and constitutionality.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and if you want to verify that, read the Communist Manifesto, because that's exactly what they say. But to go on with what I was saying is that in California, we find that the Salvation Army has now required for receipt of Christmas gifts from their charity that you must provide a whole bunch of information, and some of which is your vaccine records, that you are up to date on your vaccine. This is just what they're requiring as the Salvation Army.
Because Jesus doesn't love you if you don't vaccinate your kids.
Jesus
Well,
is vaccinated.
but here's my point. Here's my point. The
Fair
Salvation Army, can be boycotted, and they can suffer for this kind of action. But you can't do that when you've got people with guns holding your tax records over your head and threatening to throw you in prison if you don't pay up.
Yeah, the problem with government programs is often you have no recourse.
So Ted King, another citizen blogger in Oklahoma, made a point. He said, do you know that the Oklahoma state government is giving money to gay bars? And I thought, Ted, now this is a stretch.
That's out there, Ted.
Well, what are they getting for it?
Okay.
Evidence.
Here's the thing.
I guarantee you there's probably some magic.
Ted's going to have Oldham yell at you if you don't
people
prove
out
this.
there, some legislators who are going,
Okay. TSET, which is the tobacco segment, lawsuit
Okay, right.
segment, right?
right?
They are giving money to any entity who will adopt their policy of smoke-free places. You go to Pryor, you can't go to the
Call that smoke free. It's a gay place.
Yeah, I know, but it's a smoke-free gay place.
Well,
okay,
David,
but
bring you up to speed.
Okay, so let me bring that back to our point here. I'm just wondering in California if there wasn't some deal made with private charities and the California state government, such as, it could be health department giving grants to charities if they'll adopt that policy. That's
very plausible.
Very plausible.
Because we know that churches and charities all have their hand out for the government dole.
Yeah.
And I mean, we saw it with GW, who made it a big thing with his administration to make sure that money got to charities, so that charities got money back from the federal government to actually do private charitable work. But it came with strings attached.
Yes.
And as all government money does,
Yeah.
because, hey, we the people got to have some vestige of control in this thing, even if it's stupid.
Yeah.
And criminal. But the thing
Especially.
especially if it's criminal. But
Have you got anything that's stupid and criminal?
Not stupid and criminal enough.
so anyway, that's what's going on, and that's why it's got to be made voluntary again. And as soon as it becomes voluntary, then I guarantee you the donors will have the say they should be having the say of right now.
I want to make a point about public schools and to start right before your story started in the breakfast in the morning.
Yeah.
And to bridge the gap between what you're talking about, because we've had 125 years of public schools, and it's very hard for people in today's world to hear you say, well, public schools are unconstitutional. It doesn't even click. So to get somewhere in the right direction to fix the unconstitutional in an incremental way, right before they go to school, let's just totally get rid of all these mandatory truancy laws. The people that are forced to go to school through truancy laws are the kids that cause the trouble. If you went to school because you wanted to go to school, you wouldn't cause trouble. The people that cause trouble at schools are those that don't want to be there. And so we need to get rid of the trouble. Also, there are legitimate reasons for people not to be forced to go to public school. Many of during the teachers' walkout, the people who have disabled children, they have problems because the schools can't take care of the disabled child, but the child's forced to go into the school.
Yeah, maybe you don't want to go to school because you want to learn how to actually read instead of LGBT story.
Well, that's a whole other issue.
And
the dropout rate would be improved, if you want to call it that. There would be fewer dropouts if they would educate instead of indoctrinate.
Sure. I guarantee you that if this thing went, if what I'm saying was just we dropped it all cold turkey, I guarantee nothing would change ultimately. It might take a little while to sort a few things out, but I guarantee teachers wouldn't end up losing their jobs. They would lose their jobs with the state, yes.
Yeah.
But they would pick them right back up somewhere else, and they probably
we'd
have enough time. We'd have months in terms of preparation that they'd have it all lined up, and there would be plenty of charities and plenty of people setting it.
When you go to private industry, we see at least two phenomena. You get a higher quality product, and everybody makes more money. You're paid more money. Look at the military. We're talking. What happens when you go from working in the United States military to contract work? I mean, anybody who's been in the military will tell you the contractors make six figures.
Right, yeah.
It's incredible. I've got a friend who actually lives the street over. He went into contract work making $350,000 per year out of the Navy. Well, that was the greatest gift the Navy could have ever given him.
Yep.
And now he's my age. He owns just a dozen rent houses around town.
Nice.
And now his job is collecting checks every day. Right. It's wonderful. Well, look at Epic charter schools.
Yep.
How much more do the teachers get paid? How much happier are the students? Right? And how much more are they learning? I mean, so obviously when we move to this private model, everything will be better.
That's a hybrid. Just to be fair with Epic, that's a hybrid. And without the state money, they would have to go out and sell themselves like anybody else.
And they'd make even more money. And I think
Well,
they'd actually
but they're
do
under the
better.
same
Probably
state
so.
guidelines too.
No.
They don't just get to do
Right,
anything
let me
they want.
clarify something on this. Texas and Florida are way ahead of Oklahoma in pulling a flanking maneuver. And yes, David, it's not the liberty that you're ascribing to, but it's a way to say, okay, the state will provide an education, but we're not going to put it through this bureaucracy that has been built up over 2 centuries. And we've allowed private contractors to come in, and we're paying them per student. And yes, Epic is one. Now, keep in mind, there's other ones that aren't doing as well as Epic. We got to be honest with it. And the ones,
well, they're drowned under the regulation.
right. In Tulsa Public Schools decided to do their own online. It was so pathetic. They didn't know how to do it.
Right.
You know why? Because they did not have the profit motive that Epic had.
The government's bad with websites.
Right.
Ask Obama.
And yeah. So anyway, how do you get
That
out of
was
this?
a for-profit.
We're gonna say, look, if you're just if you're just joining us and you're going to continue to stick around, I'm Tom McKay, 3D Politics Live right now. I've got David Van with SoonerPolitics.org, David Oldham with ConstitutionalGrounds.com, and David D'Ambroso. Catch him at Dave D'Ambroso at Facebook. I'm just not going to be able to do it
He's
tonight.
king of the internet.
It's all right.
Social media.
No.
They already know where I am.
I am not going to be able to do it.
Yes.
So we're going to move on to a next story, a state story about a new law that allows school bus cameras to ticket reckless drivers.
Finally.
Probably a headline that's a little loose on there. I doubt the cameras are literally going to ticket, but they'll probably take a picture of your tag. Let's see. Bill allowing law enforcement to use cameras on school buses to track down drivers who illegally pass stopped buses. It went into effect Friday, November 1st. No problem there. House Bill 1926 by Representative Del Curbs out of Shawnee, a Republican, and Ron Sharp, a Republican out of Shawnee.
Oh, is that the guy with the fake degree?
That's the
allegedly.
So they like the idea of a minimum ticket for $100 for drivers who break this law.
$100.
There you go.
Wow. Well, with rhinos like that, who needs Democrats? Am I right?
Well, the question is, and this comes down to what I've been saying a lot, and that is that freedom or liberty has responsibilities involved, and when you see a bus with its flashing lights, that means a kid's going to be crossing the street, or it should be, and therefore you need to be stopped.
It's not time to drag race.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And let me say this, just because a whole bunch of campaign funds came into Del Curbs and Ron Sharp's campaign from the camera manufacturers, distributors, that has nothing to do with
Well,
the
to that
motivation.
point,
They care about your kids,
David,
D'Ambroso.
it would be a conspiracy theory to say it had something to do with it.
Yeah.
The problem with this is not that we love our children, we don't want to get run over by reckless drivers, but the creation of a new revolving fund. That's the problem. This law also requires 75% of the tickets for this violation to be deposited into the newly created Cameras for School Bus Stops. It's a revolving fund. So the point is,
fund
with
your own
any
oppression.
currency flow, there's always some fingers that have to be paid along the way to administrate it.
Well,
So why can't they just go ahead and do this with the regular things that they have instead of creating a new fund?
Well, supposedly, and I don't know the truth on the matter, but supposedly there are a lot of people who are jumping around the school buses with their red lights on. And I don't know the veracity of it and whether or not it was truly something that needed to be passed. Del Curbs is a former bus driver, and so he supposedly knows. I don't know how he could sponsor legislation where there's a conflict, because unless he is completely retired, because I think that violates the Constitution, the Oklahoma Constitution.
Oh, that thing?
Yeah,
Curbs
didn't follow that.
Curbs is quoted here saying, "This is a very serious problem, but unfortunately it's difficult for our officers to enforce the law." I mean, it is. That's difficult. It always is difficult. They passed a curfew law in the 90s because they had a problem with graffiti, they told me. We're having a problem catching the graffiti people, so we passed a curfew law. Well, why don't we just, pass a law to keep everybody out of there?
It's a stop sign just like any other state-sanctioned or municipally sanctioned stop sign. You either pay attention to it or you blow past it.
Well, my point is, so why aren't we just taking care of the problem instead of passing a new law? If it's a serious problem, is it a serious problem on every single bus? Where's the data on the problem? So I'm saying we're just going to pass.
Well,
this. We're going to create
here's the
this.
deal.
Where is the worst problems, and why don't we put a
Okay.
couple of units out there to stop them?
Here's
Make
the
an
deal.
example out of
Here's the
somebody.
deal, because until this came about, it was a municipal thing, and the money went to the municipality. Now he's saying no, it's state, and the state takes the money.
So this is
and
where
who's earning? He's robbing from municipalities.
Oh, I hadn't
folks.
thought about that. That's
Yeah.
a very good point.
because keeping the kids safe in the crosswalk is the city's job.
Now,
It's Del Kurt's job, and don't you question his
Now-
love for your kids.
now,
He was a bus
Trust
driver.
me, I love my kids.
this Dell fellow, does he work for the state or the municipality?
Legislature.
So is that the state of the? Help me out here. Dave.
Yeah.
Is that the state or is
When
that
he,
the
when he was a
municipality?
bus driver, it would have been the state through the, or it would have been the local school.
How about now as a legislator? Does he work for a municipality or the state?
He
The
cannot work for both.
Right.
He is a state employee.
Well, just according to the law, but they don't like to follow
He
that.
may not like to be called employee. He's a state elected official.
He's a servant.
state officer.
I like this stat here just to wow us because what'd you say? T-set is hard. Oh, that's STEM. According to the National Association of State Directors of Pupil Transportation Services, yeah, you
Does
heard
that have
it.
an acronym?
Bus driver.
This Dell guy is
hiring?
enriching himself. He's giving himself more power working for the state, like we were saying earlier.
But they want to wow us at the end of the story here that according to the National Association of State Directors of Pupil Transportation Services, nearly 84,000 drivers ignore a bus stop arm every day.
Wow.
Now that sounds like a revenue generator out of the Golden Goose story.
And how many
You're
kids do we have
telling
around
me
as
there
a
are-
result? 83,000 per
You
day?
could write $84,000 tickets a day.
Here's the thing: if you
That's
really
all
want
right.
to,
That's one of those. That's one of those statistics that's just
Start
Just
right, yeah.
plucked from the air.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
first of all, let me say this. If the camera is on the side of the bus, in the inside, right, driver's side, and you're driving past the bus, it'll pick up your license plate. Almost no chance it's going to identify the driver. Now, if it's coming the other way, in Oklahoma, we don't have driver's license plates in the front.
Well, they can catch your car, catch your face, and then catch the license plate.
What about
if
slow
they have a
motion,
camera
HD,
going
you
back
have
that
to
way
take a couple
as
pictures.
well,
Right.
and if there isn't another vehicle coming by
it's
blocking
like permutation
your
2 actually rigs
So-
up sky cams like
but
the NFL has.
here's-
Above the scaffolding above the bus.
I predict what's going to happen is they're going to start impounding vehicles and saying that vehicle was involved in the commission of a crime.
Let me just say once again
I can
about,
see that.
I gotta say again about public schools. If you think sending your children to public schools is safe, 84,000 drivers are trying to run over your kids every day.
You might be one of
I
them.
wouldn't put my kids on the bus.
Yeah.
I wouldn't send them to public schools.
You normally wouldn't be
But
trying
it's
to run over your own
free,
kids.
But it's mandatory.
Well, yeah. Here's the deal. If some teenagers after school come steal my car and go joyriding and go through, they might be done with it at the end of the afternoon and leave it dumped somewhere. And I'll get it back. I lost use of my vehicle for part of the day. But then the cops are going to come and impound it and make me pay towing, storage, and the fee in order to get my vehicle back. Now you tell me, who's the bigger car thief? Those kids or the government?
Well, the sad thing about that is that kind of joyriding happens 84,000 times a day, according to the stats right here.
Well, and if you want to know the answer to that question, ask our former police chief friend Stephen.
The dead one?
No, the from Mustang.
You can hold a sign.
So you gotta pull out the terror.
Anyway, he had his car taken and impounded for
yes.
for marijuana.
Yeah, Stephen Mills.
Stephen Mills.
Yeah.
And
Lots of
find out who was the bigger thief.
Right.
You know, when his car was taken for 6 months.
Yeah.
His
So
truck.
I got a couple of questions. Ron Sharp, wasn't he the one that was sued by Epic?
No, there hasn't been an actual suit filed there. I did talk to their legal counsel. They're not saying they're going to, not saying they're not going to.
Now, he
Ron
allegedly
Sharp-
libeled them. Ron Sharp libeled
Oh, yeah.
Epic using state resources.
Well, that's the question. If state resources were involved, then it is the commission
and he
of
has
a criminal act. But other Otherwise, it would be a simple tort law, libel slander.
And he allegedly has a PhD. He claims it's from some university in California, but it seems like it's from a diploma mill, according to some reports,
That's
right?
what I'm hearing.
Okay.
So Senator Ron Sharp and Representative Del Curbs from Shawnee. Now Curbs is a school bus driver.
Correct.
And which means he probably knows other school bus drivers because they hang out together,
Right.
which means he probably knows people in the school bus business because he's a professional school bus person.
Oh yeah.
Which means he would probably be able to help somebody write a pretty good contract to sell cameras to
Right.
people who make school buses.
It's an esteemed career.
So I guess what I'm saying is, if this is such a great idea, I don't care about saving the children. I think that's a great idea. What bothers me is creating a revolving fund.
Yes.
Why are we creating a whole other pool of money that just draws corruption to it with a guy who's already questionable using state funds?
Right.
Ron Sharp.
Right.
Am I
Exactly.
out of my mind?
Now,
They just get
I
so
think we
much
should be
undue
just-
credit.
I'll get you a piece of Tim Crow.
Yeah. Yes, David D'Ambroso, David Oldham, and David Van. I'm Tom McKay on 3D Politics. We're going to move on to the Manford cop charged with murder of his chief.
National
Wow.
story unfolding.
Yeah.
This is the hottest story we have tonight. Tonight's episodes are brought to you by GT Bynum's. Be sure and vote no on our Make Our
That's right.
Taxes Great.
Yep.
Improve our taxes. The city of Manford, Oklahoma is in shock and grief today with the news that one of their own peace officers, Michael Patrick Neely, is suspected of the violent murder of Police Chief Lucky Miller.
not so lucky.
What happened? Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like Die Hard. He's making puns already.
And I checked with some of my contacts in local law enforcement about this. The story is they're gone down to Pensacola Beach for there's a conference, law enforcement conference scheduled for this week. And late night of Saturday night, evidently they got into it. First report said it happened on the beach. Actually, the body was found in a hotel room. When the police got there, he was dead. They did say that alcohol was involved, but they wouldn't go any further. They did not say whether there was, they didn't give a motive, and they did not claim to have recovered any weapon loose in it. So, seems like a brawl. Maybe somebody bashed somebody's head into a wall.
We don't know yet.
Yeah, we just don't know.
This is still a breaking story, folks.
It is, and national media's picked up on it this morning. It really hit Oklahoma news this morning, and sadly, Lucky Miller leaves behind a wife. He's 44 years old. Wife and 3 kids. He's been with a local department there for about 13 years. Has had good reputation in the community. Now this law enforcement officer with him is one of his top training officers, and that's probably why he was along with on this, is to get some training and bring it back to Manford. Now Manford's had, you guys know I do some training with law enforcement and that. On that, Manford's known as one of the places in the state where a lot of law enforcement agencies, peace officers, go to get their continuing training in a whole number of things. And so
That makes sense.
yeah. Now
It's centrally located, but still out in the middle of
okay.
nowhere.
Now we don't have a mugshot. You know why? Florida has a very strict law that says every mugshot is public record and you cannot keep it back if you're law enforcement. Except they made a carve-out. Guess who the carve-out's for? Anybody in law enforcement. So we don't have his mugshot. Now, he was charged with the homicide, first degree. No bond was given.
Right.
And his next court appearance is December 5th, so about 4 weeks away.
Wow.
So, he's going to sit there for a while. And keep in mind, he leaves a family behind here. So now Manford, who only had nine cops. No, it's a small,
They're down
beautiful town.
22% of their cops.
Yeah, they've lost.
It's a
They
big
lost 2 of their 9. They're down to 7. The city manager named an interim police chief, Jerry Ridley. Yeah, and he takes over. Manford's a beautiful town, right on the south shore of Lake Keystone. Beautiful place. It's a very sad thing. And you got 2 families right now who are without dad.
Right.
Because...
Well, 3 children. 3 kids.
On the one. I don't know as much about, Mike Neely, this one, but there are some rumors going about, but I just am not going to repeat anything because these are families
We don't
already know.
Makes it better than NBC or ABC.
Well, no,
news
the
outlet.
rumors I've heard nobody has published yet, so, and that's good. I want to say that, but we're going to hear some more here real soon. Real soon.
All right, so
Real soon.
All right, so a Channel 9 story, OK2A releases a statement.
Yeah.
This is concerning Tim Harper.
Yeah.
So who wants to cover that one, gentlemen?
Well, I'm really good personal friends with Tim, so I'll start out.
Do it.
I'm just kidding. I don't know. Tim, if you're watching this, I don't know that we've ever spoken in real life, but my understanding is very cursory, and I'll be brief, but my understanding is there's a little bit of a question as to if Tim speaks for OK2A in any capacity.
No.
Or if he has before or attempted to, and so there's a bit of a dispute. I don't know what the facts are on either side, so I really don't have an opinion about it, but certainly unpopular with the media and leftists, his Second Amendment audits, which essentially, they are uncomfortable for many people, but they are his right. And some in the 2A community don't like it, and some like it. Okay. And there's a little
News
bit of
9 is calling him self-proclaimed Second Amendment auditor.
Well, yeah, just like I'm a self-proclaimed citizen journalist.
They're a self-proclaimed media outlet.
But, yeah.
They're self-proclaimed media.
Thank you. I want to get some background on this if we can.
Okay.
So, about a year ago, Tim Harper, on the opening day of the Gathering Place Park here in Tulsa, he was arrested for
domestic terrorism,
legally carrying a firearm.
Okay,
and at that time, Don Spencer called him an absolutely, I forget the term he used, but glowing terms about him. This is a model citizen doing his legal constitutional rights. And Don, at that point, was fine with this about a little over a year ago. Now, this is the same guy. Remember we talked about those protests going on in Lawton last summer, maybe last spring, because these detainment facilities from ICE were going to be there. Right. Tim Harper went down there, and another good friend of some of us here, Adrian Otap, went down, and it was those 2 guys against several hundred leftist organizers. And Tim Harper had about a 15-foot PVC pole with a Trump flag on it. And it was the most amazing. Now, Tim...
Had a gun on his hip.
Yes. And he was open carrying.
How scary was it? 1 to 10.
Legally. Let me say
Here's
this.
the Don Spencer quote you were looking for.
Yes.
He called Harper a perfect example of a peaceful citizen exercising Second Amendment rights.
Perfect. Now, so Tim is a very mild-mannered guy. We talked about him a week ago. Last week we talked about him showing up in Representative Lowe's district at a place of worship. Okay, the optics on that, I was troubled by last week. I mentioned that. I said, how would we like it if a couple of hooded young men, of whatever ethnicity showed up in Nichols Hills outside a bridge club in some fancy, uppity neighborhood? You said, we'll find out who's a racist, right? So, the optics on this were difficult. I ran that story, what was it? Saturday night. By Monday, everybody else seemed to pick up on my story. They're like, that's my story. Well, anyway, and they just hounded it, Now, by the time we talked about it, I didn't realize it got taken off of YouTube, got taken off of Facebook, including Adrian Otap's version. Can't get a hold of it.
No.
But, again, Don, I talked to Don, we texted back and forth on it. He said, look, we've talked to him several times. And you can, have a OK2A flag in that, but if you're passing yourself off as you're representing OK2A, then we got a problem. And Don told me, he said, I've had multiple interactions with him and tried to do it quietly and said, look, we do audits when we already have a complaint, because Don Spencer himself did that out there at October 1st, right? The River West. Again, he already had a problem,
Right.
and he was going back again with the law in hand, and trying to educate them, and he's interacting, wants to speak to a law enforcement office.
Right.
What
Don's doctrine is reactive, like you're saying. If there's a known problem, he goes out there and attempts to address it. Tim's doctrine is sort of preemptive.
Well, I think it's broader because Tim, I believe Tim is of the opinion that the problem exists. All we need to do is prick the zit and let it pop.
More sensationalism.
It's there already. It's under the surface. It's boiling up.
I just want to mention the different philosophies.
Here's
the
the complaint is that it seems to be with the motive of attempting to get some shock value, some reaction.
This is like the back fat story.
I mean,
it's almost like shame.
I mean, that's one perspective.
Well, and while I would say it's there and you're pricking the zit, I'm not meaning that means that it makes a reaction and a violent reaction or anything like that. What I'm saying is that people need to be educated. Well, how do you educate people? There are a lot of different ways.
Right.
And the thing is, and one of the best ways would be to go to South Tulsa, a black man with an AR over his shoulder, and walk through the neighborhood. That's a fabulous way to get
This
to
reminds
educate.
me of the back fat story where the ladies just took off their top to try to make a point. And what I just called it reaction shaming. I mean, it's literally they went in to purposely get a negative reaction and then say, oh, you have a negative reaction. This is basically what it sounds like to me. This is a preemptive strike to make you react so that we can make a big deal out of it. You're disturbing
on this
the
one,
peace.
no one can make anyone feel a certain way.
Exactly.
And
so someone
you can feel
feels
disturbed
a certain way, it's subjective, and there is no guaranteed constitutional right to any kind of feeling. You don't have the right to feel safe.
Okay, but here's the world that Don Spencer lives in. He is involved in moving the political football. And it's not...
And he's done a good job.
It's not strictly logical. And this is to our consternation.
Because
a lot of us like to deal in logic, and a lot of other people like to deal in feelings. And this is a problem. Now, I'm going to say, supposing Tim Harper's walking up to that storefront church, and instead of a black man standing there, kind of the usher of the church, instead, nobody's there. And as he's coming up, 3 little kids are coming out of Sunday school class. Now, I'm not going to say, well, those kids shouldn't be afraid of a gun. The fact is they're kids, and they're not responsible for what they've grown up in. But in the black community, guns are a terrifying thing. They just are. Now, and again, I say the black, I'm going to say the urban community. I don't want to say monolithically, because I know a lot of people who are in that, and they say, I'm terrified of guns.
Right. To their detriment, because the more guns, the safer the place is. That's why urban areas are at least safe in the country.
Yeah, living in fear.
But there is a vast difference between what Don Spencer did with the cops at Oktoberfest. He specifically went to them. And what Tim Harper is just walking into restaurants and walking into...
In principle, it's exactly the same, but I get what you're saying. The feeling's a little bit different.
It's the politics of it, and we've moved the ball quite a bit, and Don wants to protect what we've got in here.
Right.
It's Don's prerogative to pursue whatever kind of policy he wants to, and it's Tim's prerogative to pursue any kind of rights that he has.
So here's what I'm saying. Don simply said... He's not doing this with the bidding of OK2A. We told him, do not say this is OK2A.
Correct.
You never heard Don Spencer saying he's doing something illegal or wishing the cops would arrest him or anything like that.
Yeah,
correct.
He just said, look, we have our own messaging going on.
Right, and that's fair.
And he's not part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So did we read part of this? Actually, the board delivered an agreement. The board of directors of Oklahoma Second Amendment Association unanimously agreed the following statement. While we support a person's right to keep and bear arms, we acknowledge the right may stop at the discretion of the private property business owner.
Oh, absolutely.
Mr. Harper is not a member of OK2A and has never had any authority to use or represent OK2A at any time. His actions to draw attention to himself while escalating tensions for profit of a social media platform is uncalled for, unwise, and does not hold to the values of the board of directors of OK2A or the majority of Oklahomans. His claim to any such authority with OK2A is false. So clearly they're just clearing their association.
And the only thing I'd like to push back on that is they're sort of proposing, there are ascribing intent.
That's right.
To someone and pretending that they have tarot card SJW powers.
They know,
and they've laid them out, and they know that Tim Harper is, from all accounts, I don't know him personally, he's a mild-mannered, meek man, and very principled, and that sounds like, from what I've heard about this man, it's the last thing he'd want to do.
Yeah.
And he just seems to be out there with the same objective as OK2A, just protecting our rights, and you know what? It gets uncomfortable. Well, and I don't think the people that feel uncomfortable are insane, but I would ask them to attempt to step back and examine who has been harmed. Who has been harmed by these actions objectively?
But
no one.
Okay, I want to say the gentleman at that storefront church acted admirably. They asserted their rights as private property. They said, "We don't want you here. You know, go back over to the right of way, city right of way street." And they treated him respectfully. He treated them respectfully.
Tim Harper agreed.
Yeah, everything was good.
So everybody followed the law.
I wish I would have downloaded that video because now it's gone.
So this, to finalize, this kind of explains how OK2A and Mr. Harper can be on the same side of the concept, but have differing views on how to go about it. They say Mr. Harper's continued antics and disregard for private, again,
from their perspective,
they are. Well, to finish the thought here, it's a disregard for private property rights, as well as what they think is a needless escalation of concerns and tensions. That's why they would call them antics. And they say that he's continuing to draw a negative response to the protection of our rights to keep and bear arms.
Yeah.
So that's why. Here's the biggie for Mr. Harper. Mr. Harper has been informed that he has been permanently banned from current and future OK2A membership and the use of its electronic or social media platforms. The big lesson here, folks, is socialism bites on both sides. Yeah. Everybody thinks you're a member of a group. You think, oh, I'm a member of a group. No, the group picks you. Tim Harper thought he was a member of the Right to Bear Arms group, but the Right to Bear Arms group said, we'll pick you and then no, you're not in our group anymore. Just remember, you don't pick the group you're in, the group picks you.
And that's another statement, his disregard of private property rights. Is there any evidence that Tim has disregarded private property rights?
The concept that he would disregard the owner of the business.
Well, he didn't. Certainly not in that video.
I understand, but I'm just asking, do we have any scenario in which he said, I don't respect your property rights, I'm staying here with my rifle?
My problem
that ever happened?
Coming in would be the disrespect.
They better have evidence.
Knowing that they didn't want him in there and coming in would be the literal disrespect.
Yeah, there is in this OK2A statement a lot of innuendo.
Unless there's other things that we don't know about.
Well, that my question is going back to, objectively. I like facts because I'm a simple man. I can't get into all this psychic stuff and who thinks this or whatever. That's for people much beyond further denying.
OK2A is clearly
more spiritual.
And when you've got a big organization and you're paying to have people down at the Capitol or whatever paying for
I get it.
Effort, listen.
OK2A.
Don's worked really hard on this. But what I want to say is, this goes back to Ferguson, when the Oath Keepers of Missouri said, you know what, these shopkeepers in the urban community of Ferguson, they need to have the means to protect themselves, and they've never had guns, in this urban black community. And so they're advising, counseling on, how to be a gun owner. And you know what happens? Oath Keepers nationally disavowed Oath Keepers of Missouri.
Right.
Because it's black folk that were going to get guns.
I think I would have to debate this last statement of the OK2A's release. They're talking about Tim Harper. Don't let one person be considered the norm for Oklahoma gun owners. Now, that's the end of their statement. We would also like to remind the residents of the state of Oklahoma there are more than 400,000 gun owners that do not carry firearms to draw such negative attention and elevate the concerns of citizens. Don't let one person, i.e. Tim Harper, be considered the norm for Oklahoma gun owners. Actually, I would suggest that maybe Tim Harper is a great example of the norm of gun owners because he's clearly willing to politely exercise his rights. He didn't do anything violent. He went further than these tie-wearing OK2A guys wanted him to go. And they probably do things that he wouldn't do in the way that they conduct their lives.
They're both right in pursuing their own ends and how they feel is the best way to promote and defend the Second Amendment. That's fine. But I will say, and I can't accept, and I have to push back on this cancerous thinking that OK2 seems to be presenting here in the statement, that we are responsible for how others feel. We are never responsible for how others feel, ever. And we can't accept that, because as soon as you accept that can of worms, you just have a complete devaluation of all of our rights.
Okay, but I will say on this, is kind-hearted as a man as Tim Harper is, I would like to see him bring aside some counsel on the order of empathy to start thinking ahead. If I'm walking up to this church on private property and some little kids come up seeing a guy with this big AR-15 strapped on me, what are they going to think?
I would have thought it was cool.
That's you. That's you.
And Call of Duty makes like $1 billion the first day it comes out. I think kids love it.
And the other thing I would have done, I would have found somebody from the neighborhood who looks like the rest of the neighborhood and say, walk with me.
Yeah.
Let's make this a little bit of a multicultural thing.
Yeah. Adam Modisset's doing that. He's got a whole gang in some of these communities that he's in Dell City, Midwest City. Well, he goes walking around with a bunch of black guys with rifles.
Right.
No problem.
To your point, David Van, for bringing this up, Spencer called Harper the perfect example of a well-meaning gun owner when he was peacefully exercising his rights, but court records obtained by the Frontier paint a different picture of the man whose expulsion from the park kicked off the upcoming rally. This is from the Frontier about how Harper had been accused by people of making threats toward them with the firearm, attempting to hit them with vehicles, and threatening to cut his stepdaughter's head off with an axe.
Wow, doesn't sound like him. I would just like to ask for the proof like anything else.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
is this like Kavanaugh and the gang rape parties every week, or what?
No. Yeah, court records. This is assertions from an attempt to get a temporary restraining order.
They're unsubstantiated.
According to Tim, was never granted.
Well, hold on. We have a legal record if they were granted, correct?
No. What happens?
I'm confusing this with a story from October 10th, 2018. So this is in connection to this from a year ago.
Right. When you petition for emergency order protection, if everything's plausible, the judge immediately gives it to you, and then they go serve that person, and they're told in 2 weeks you have a court date, and their constitutional rights are taken away for 2 weeks without having their day in court. Okay?
2 weeks is pretty speedy.
It's what the Democrats did to Mike Workman to keep him from running for party office.
You can use it.
Okay, but when that court date is held, then they find out in earnest, okay, is there anything to this? And you have your constitutional right to confront your accusers. And if the judge says, dismissed, then it's never established to have any truth. It's just a filed complaint.
So what happened in the case of Tim?
That's what we're trying to find out here. Tim Harper says anybody can allege anything.
Well, that's true.
Proving
That's
it.
True.
Well, he claims it was never
So
proven.
if they're granted, are they not public record that this restraining order was granted by a judge?
The emergency relief is granted without anybody.
No. We get that. So after the emergency relief is automatically granted and you show up for court in 2 weeks, the results of that court hearing, are they public record?
Tim, from what I've read, he indicated nothing ever stuck.
Well, yeah, my question is, if it did stuck, would it not be public record?
Oh, sure.
The judge said, yeah,
Then
I found the evidence to show that
there
you were
would
a
be
dangerous guy.
There would be a further order stating certain number of months.
Right, and that would be
he would
public
have-
record, yes or no? That's kind of my question.
Yeah. And
So, does such a record exist for our intrepid
the
journalists?
Frontier would have had access
Okay,
to it,
looks
as much
like-
as they've done.
Looks like
it looks
none
like
of
a
these
hit
records-
job from the Frontier.
All right.
And yet, Dylan, I know we're still friends, so
what
I
I
didn't
did.
disagree with you here.
I mean, it's all public record if these claims are substantiated.
Mm.
But when they're unsubstantiated, they're just claims.
It sounds like the big mystery is with Don Spencer. He's the one that had the beginning story and then a spin on the story with the opposite outcome. He used to like Harper, now he doesn't like Harper.
Well, Harper's become an internet sensation. And all of a sudden, Don's losing the narrative here.
Well, they're different narratives. Remember,
It seems like he liked him when he was an internet sensation the first
well,
time.
remember a
It was
lot of
one
your
time.
audits. If you go onto YouTube and you watch what they do with audits, they are auditing government officials. What Tim did was not auditing a government official, but auditing the public and then the government officials who show up because the public reacts the way the public is used to react.
Well, and to make an argument for Tim, look what happened to our pal Rick Hubbard.
Yeah.
Just, he's not been charged with a crime. He got pepperballed. His
Sure.
guns were all taken.
No.
Very well, has never committed a crime in his life. He's 40.
Okay.
I don't think he has speeding tickets. And look at how the public reacted. So you could make the argument from Rick's situation, well, maybe Tim needs to do what Tim is doing in order to prevent what happened to Rick Hubbard,
Okay,
where
so
some
let me
scared
respond.
person
You remember
calls the police and
David,
swats the guy.
David, just say that day that we first announced that with Rick Hubbard, you're way back last spring.
Yeah, in April.
Yeah.
Okay, remember I said an incident identical to it happened in Oklahoma City? That was Tim Harper.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the cops showed up, some lady complained, and the cop says, yeah, he has a legal right to do this.
Great. Good for
And
Oklahoma
sent
City,
him on
yeah.
his way. But again, Tim does himself well with his docile demeanor. He doesn't.
He's very articulate, too.
He's just very easygoing.
Yeah.
You know. He just.
We're going to finish out this exciting episode with some court updates. If you're just tuning in, I'm
Yep.
Tom McKay with 3D Politics, David Van, David Oldham, David D'Ambroso. And what do you know about this, what is this, Grants versus Blanchard City thing?
Kenny Grants,
This has
and
been
you know
all
I
settled
talked
out,
to
isn't
him.
it?
Oh,
I
good.
talked to him. Yeah. Kenny, when we last talked about this, he was arrested sitting in his pickup truck outside a client's house. He's a roofing contractor. And he was waiting for the guy to get home. He had a ladder in there. Cops showed up because some neighbors said there's a strange car parked on the street, and I guess a cul-de-sac.
It was a short cul-de-sac.
Yeah, and he wouldn't tell them anything. And so they said, all right, we're going to arrest you. Even though the assistant DA said, no, you really can't do anything to him.
Right.
And they says, well, could I follow him and arrest him for something, a motor traffic, thing, And they were literally plotting that. And, and then finally a supervisor shows up. He says, yeah, we're too late. We're arresting you for
Obstruction.
Obstruction, yes.
That sounds
Because
familiar.
you
That's like the catch-all.
exercised your Fifth Amendment right
No.
There might be a
to
Russian
escape
Okay.
from self-incrimination.
Now, the interesting thing, the Blanchard Police Department, particular Stacy White, the chief of police, Tim Harper was down there right after that with his camera, and he would go up to a squad car and he would have his camera just looking in the car and everything. Something that would bother me if I saw a guy do that,
Well,
This guy-
in your car, that would be different. It's not your car; it's our car that he's looking
Yes.
in. That's a different.
So anyway, then he goes
It's the
into
people's car.
He goes
Yes.
in,
It's a Volkswagen.
Okay, he goes into the police station, and he's doing that, and the lady there, receptionist and dispatcher, it's fine. Finally, the chief of police, Stacy White, comes up. Hey, Tim, how are you, man? He says, love your show. I'm a member of OK2A myself, It was really good, It was a great PR thing because Stacy White was dealing with this lawsuit. Right. So here's what happened. They arrested him, never even arraigned him, never charged him, let him go. Because by the time it got to the DA's office, he was like, I told you guys, leave it be, right? So,
That's just stupid process
Okay.
stuff. Who cares?
So he files a lawsuit against every one of those officers, including the police chief of police,
Yeah.
Stacy White in the city of Blanchard. And it did just a few weeks, and it was dismissed, settled out of court.
Okay.
I don't know what the details were, but I reached out to Kenny, I friended him on Facebook, and I said, are you satisfied? He says, he gave me some choice words about but he wouldn't talk about the settlement itself.
Well, he can't.
Yeah, but the cool thing is, he turned it around and made them pay a price for what they did.
Right.
Right. I want to talk about that for just a minute. I had an interesting conversation with an officer, he's a deputy sheriff, who works at the jail here in Tulsa County. And he was saying the big problem is that we are not charging these people with crimes, because people who need to be charged with crimes, okay, these police officers need to be charged with a crime for assault and battery, for violation of his various rights that they all violated. And what happened was the city ends up paying, and these guys never paid a price, a personal price for this. And he says, even if the DA were to start it, they would want to drop it just to get the money. Mm-hmm. And the DA is motivated to give the money and drop the charges. Because of every player is involved in this because it's not their money.
Yes, that's it.
And so the thing is that ultimately the people who need to pay the price never pay the price.
Right.
Because ultimately the people who need to be pressing the charges are bought off.
Yeah.
And so if there is a lesson to learn from this is that we need to change that paradigm in order to finally get a rein on this and have we the people take back our government.
The current system is the victim ends up paying for their own victimization.
They're
on the hook for it to pay the settlement for the actions taken against them illegally, which is
but it's such a minuscule amount on their personal part that they don't care because they're getting the big check. And that's why everybody doesn't care about the little taxes that might go up if they're getting the big teacher pay raise or the big welfare check raise or whatever.
The big road fix.
Or
it's coming, guys.
Yes, whatever.
We're gonna be good.
It's minuscule compared to what they're personally receiving, and that's the problem. That you will not get it turned around by vote.
Don't forget to vote no tomorrow on Fix Our Taxes. That's right, in Tulsa County.
You save $2,000 per person by voting no. Each one of you.
Let's wait until July 1st, 2021 and start paying that tax. And then after that one gets started, see if we can afford more after that. That's children. I'm Tom McKay with 3D Politics. I got David Van, David Oldham, David D'Ambroso. Make sure to catch all three of them. David Van at Soonerpolitics.org, David Oldham at ConstitutionalGrounds.com, and David D'Ambroso, Dave D'Ambroso at Facebook. I'm Tom McKay at Tome McKay at Twitter. We'll see you next week on 3D Politics Live.
Thanks for sticking around.
Stop cluttering Tom's inbox with emails, NFL.
Yeah, because I'm not
Wait, he's out of that gig of storage.
Yeah.